Kellan, I've thought about different ways to ask this question. I don't know where to go. So you just go. What was your thoughts? What was your reaction? Can you process it? It actually happened. I don't know if we all thought it would really happen, but it happened.
Yeah, it sure did, Cam. I think that this is something that we've been speculating about for so long that there is a level of shock and surprise that goes out the window. And especially our own John Gambadoro was reporting in the last week that we were looking at that Nurkic-Ayton swap as particularly a part of the Lillard trade that could come. But I'm still surprised, Cam, because you and I, we've been talking so many times over so many years about Deandre and the uncertainty, not only about his play on the court, but his position off the court. You think 2 summers ago when we were talking about, or actually, my goodness, like almost 2 years ago at this point where we go to that contract extension, it doesn't come. Then we got restricted free agency. And then is there a sign and trade? Now we're all talking about January 10th because that's the first day that Deandre can be traded. Then we come into this offseason, we're talking about, man, is Deandre going to get well, there's like this thing in late July where he can, like, his veto power goes away. So maybe it's then. And then it never came, Cam. And we were just kind of going into the season like, all right, they're going to try it again with Deandre. And for everything that he does well, for everything that he doesn't do well, there's always been that question of the consistency that comes with it. And the extreme lack of it in the postseason, I think, made it much more apparent that a mutual separation here was probably the best way for this to go. And that's what we got today. Eventful day.
Who is more to blame for this? Did the Suns fail Ayton, or did Ayton fail the Suns?
Man, that's the best question there, Cam, and that's why you get paid the big bucks with your tie on there, sir. If I do say so myself, fitting the color as well. I like it. Good stuff, man. I lean more towards the player in all situations like this. It just doesn't have to do with Deandre specifically, but I think there's a level of accountability that the player has to have. But what you're hitting on, Cam, is why that, in my opinion, and let me know your thoughts on this too, I think Deandre is the most polarizing player we've ever seen in the Valley in terms of just the extreme lengths that people go to be on this side or this side of the debate. And it's only gotten more, maybe the numbers have shifted to one way or the other in the last 2 or 3 years specifically. But there are still a lot of people over here, Cam, who believe that Frank Vogel was going to get the most out of Deandre Ayton and that the Suns under Monty Williams were misutilizing him, were underutilizing him offensively, weren't trying to get the most out of him defensively, should make him more of a priority to make him more of an emphasis going forward. But ultimately, we're here, and I think that the amount of time that passed, Cam, allowed us to kind of soak in and reflect on just how we saw, and Monty said this line all the time, Cam, you were in the room with me, we know what the bar is with him. It was set. That 2021 playoff run when he was arguably the second best player on the finals team. Yes, Chris Paul and Devin Booker were on that team, but Deandre was amazing during that run. And I wrote it in the column on ArizonaSports.com. Perspective again. Cam, he was 22 in his playoff debut, and he was playing like that. So it's like, man, what is this kid going to be capable of in 3 to 5 years when he really starts to develop and figure some things out? And I think he did get better 2 seasons ago, but last year to me was the first year in his career where we saw him regress. And then especially in the postseason, he regressed. And with how much the Suns have put on the line with this Kevin Durant trade, with this Bradley Beal trade, taking any sort of risk or gamble or uncertainty out of the equation as much as possible had to be under serious consideration. And unfortunately for this situation and just wanting to see it work out, it just couldn't, because you just weren't sure what Deandre was going to show up on any given night. And the way that I've been putting it in a lot of places, Cam, the last couple of months is, let's say that 10 out of 10 Deandre is that 2021 playoff run. I don't need that guy, Cam. I just need the 6 or a 7 out of 10 guy every single night. But you don't get that. You look at centers like Steven Adams and Kevon Looney, who are far less skilled, far less athletic than Deandre, but they're unquestionably better players just because they're consistent on a night-to-night basis. And Deandre just hasn't unlocked that most important skill. I think the 2 things for guys that come into the league that are immensely talented, the 2 things we always see, and we've seen guys work out in Phoenix, not work out, work ethic, and then finding that consistency. And the work ethic is there for Deandre. I don't think anyone questions his work ethic off the court. I know that sometimes he has moments on the court that would lead you to believe he's a lazy guy. By no means is he a lazy guy, but finding that consistency is just really hard, Cam. It's really hard. It holds a lot of guys back. And right now, ultimately, it's holding back Deandre from becoming what a lot of people still believe is going to be a guy who's looked at as really one of the best centers in the game.
Yeah, Kel, when I look at it, I just think enough was enough. You tried it for 5 years. You did everything possible to get this guy to succeed. His teammates, they never threw him under the bus. They defended him till the end. And you just couldn't. And I think and yet you could just never get that same DA from that finals run night in and night out. I get it. Monty played favorites. I think we all would agree on that. They didn't have the best relationship. Sure, Frank Vogel said all the right things, but I really think behind the scenes they were wondering what type of DA would show up. And in my eyes, when I look at this trade, they traded a fourth or fifth option for a fourth or fifth option. It seems like this trade is a push, and I think that speaks heavily of what Deandre Ayton's value is around the league. This could be tremendously wrong for the Suns. This could prove very wrong if DA goes out and becomes an all-star in Portland. I'll say this: he wasn't going to be that all-star here with three guys in front of him.
But could he be in Portland? Yeah, of course he could be. Like, we can sit here and say, like, would I bet on him becoming that in Portland if I had to choose between one or the other, Cam? I wouldn't, but I think it's in the line of possibility. He's just so talented. And look, even if he's not the guy every single night, if he's the guy 7 or 8 nights out of 10, you'll take that 100%. You'll take that. And that's a near all-star, if not an all-star center in this league. Going into last season, Cam, I thought he was just about a top 5 center in the league. And now I'm not even sure if I would have him I know I wouldn't have him in the top 10, maybe not even in the top 15. I think that's how far his value had sunk. And when we were going into June and July, I think what you alluded to there is we didn't know what his trade value was. And I did these mock offseason exercises where I was trying to be as realistic as possible. It was tough in the situation with Deandre, but be realistic about his return. And I was doing these trades where it was like Terry Rozier, Cody Martin, and a 34th overall pick. And people were like, what, are you kidding me? For Deandre Ayton? Get out of here. But that's where his trade value ultimately kind of was. It was in this rough spot where Nurkic is a starting caliber center. He has his flaws, but he's a starting caliber center, albeit like a top 20, 25 one. And then you get two guys in Grayson Allen and Nasir Little who could contribute to your playoff rotation, but not to that line, Cam, where Suns fans were talking about maybe Caleb Martin, maybe OG Anunoby's in the mix here in this Damian Lillard trade, where you get that certified fifth starter, someone who absolutely, without a doubt, is one of your players you rely on the most in the postseason. Not to those lengths. I think they did well here overall, but again, a lot of that with this whole thing and the whole polarizing discussion we're talking about just goes back to where your thought process was on Deandre and the value that he had left here in Phoenix, if there really was much at all.
All right, Kellan, this question Suns fans want to know: did they get better?
Yeah, it's funny because I was on Wolf and Luke asked me this question, and I just said yeah, but with more hesitation, and then couldn't say anything after that because that is the simple question that is a very complicated answer. I think it's
complicated because they're already good. They're great. They should be a contender, DA or no DA, right?
It's an excellent point. And I also think that for DA specifically, what I wrote about in ArizonaSports.com is that a lot of things for me in basketball specifically, this is a whole life thing, I guess, too, if you want to go that far, Cam, but things aren't just black and white most of the time. There's a lot of gray in there, and there's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of context as well that is going to be in these things we talk about. But Cam, this is black and white to me. Like, the Suns either are going to be much better without him, and the breath of fresh air that they are going to feel, not being certain which DeAndre they're going to get, is just going to be helping them immensely on both sides of the court. It's funny when you think about the team, by the way, like all the guys around there, only like 3 of them are left from last year's team anyway. So there's not many guys who are going to be feeling like the pros and cons there from last year to this year. But with that being said, he could go to Portland, and it could be the same thing where we were talking about how Monty Williams was going to unlock DeAndre. Then we were talking about Chris Paul. Then we were talking about Kevin Durant. And now we're going to be talking about Portland/Chauncey Billups. And then it's just the last string of all these things that can't get the consistency out of him. Or he goes to Portland, Cam, and he's awesome. And we can't rule that out. They've got a really young, exciting rookie guard in Scoot Henderson, who I think is going to be dynamic right away. And this is a situation a lot of DeAndre fans were calling for, Cam. He goes to Portland, and he's going to have a lot of stuff run out of him. They're going to run a lot of offense for him. He's going to be at the hub of their defense as well. And he's going to be a really important part of what they do. And if he is that, Cam, and we're looking at Yusuf Nurkic in street clothes in April because he can't stay healthy, or we're looking at Nasir Little and Grayson Allen and looking at them like a lot of the bench players last year where we're not really sure if they're that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th guy on the roster, then this is a huge blunder by the Suns. But we just don't know until the end of the season. But I think by the end of the season, this debate we've been having now locally for 6 years about this guy, we're going to have some clarity on it finally. I would say we've got enough clarity, Cam, and I think you're with me there. But the undeniable clarity where you just have to put it in someone's face and be like, enough, man. We saw how it went. I understand you're passionate about this, but we're going to get there by the end of the year. And that's the great thing about what we do, Cam. We can sit here and make guesses and give our opinions, but at the end of the day, we don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, pal.
So should we plan the parade now or later?
They're my pick right now. Yeah. I think that when I was doing a podcast in this specific room a couple of months ago, after all the offseason was done, I looked at what happened in Denver. They lost Bruce Brown. Jeff Green didn't really replace them with anyone. They're relying on young players. You look at what happened out West. I like what the Lakers did. I kind of actually like the Chris Paul move, but I think that no one got dramatically better. And you look at what the Suns did. You talk about trades where things could go wrong, Cam. The Beal trade's not going to go wrong. It was a no-brainer for these guys, and they did extremely well in July as well with the signings that they made. I got to say it. I said it in this room. Like I said, my only hesitation on this team, the reason why I wasn't picking them to make the finals is because I couldn't bet on Deandre Ayton being consistent for 4 straight playoff series. And that's what you need to win a championship. And he did it 2 years ago, but I just wasn't sure about it after the last 3 playoff series he had played. Interesting wrinkle here, Cam, that we're not talking about. They're my pick to win right now, but Drew Holiday goes to Portland. I don't think he's staying there. Could he go to a Western Conference team? Could he go to an Eastern Conference team and make someone better? I think that what I'm learning based on the reactions coming in over social media the last 2 hours, that Drew Holiday might be the most underrated player in the league because he was one of the best 20-25 in the league last year. And man, if you put him on one of those teams that I just mentioned, like you put him in LA or you put him somewhere else, you're talking about a much better team. So there's some things left for the Suns to figure out. They've got some extra roster spots. There's going to be more moves made by them, but keep it on where Drew Holiday lands here, probably in the next couple of days or hours. I know that we all turned on the Woj and Shams and Gambo notifications in the last week, and mine aren't turning off just yet because we got to see where Drew goes.
Kellan, get you out of here on this. This is a new way of Suns basketball, right? The rally to valley, those memories, they're not gone, but it's a different page turned in. Like, this is going to be a different team. Fans are going to have to reinvest in this team in a way, get to know everybody. Gone are the days of McHale, DA, campaign, dancing before the game. Like, it's just going to be different when you go to the, and not to say it's going to, in a bad different, it's just going to be different. And fans are going to have to adjust in it, right?
Yeah, we went from the Valley Boys era, right, with Kelly Oubre Jr., with Deandre Ayton, with Mikal to a certain extent in that fun-loving era, and it did transfer over to Deandre and campaign and Mikal hanging around. But you were there with me in that scrum, Cam. It was one of the first ones after the Kevin Durant trade, and it was when he started to get involved. And that's among, like, there's a lot of these press conferences that you and I cover over the years. That's one I'm always going to remember because it was the first time Kevin had played 5-on-5. And when Deandre Ayton came over, he seemed amazed, first of all, that he was on the floor with Kevin Durant as a teammate. But then Deandre was also like, it's different around here now. It's business. It's business right now.
We're not dancing no more, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. There's no more dancing. And that's certainly going to be the tonal shift here. And it's one for the better, Cam. But like you said, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but it's just something that is going to change. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the identity of the team changes in their first full season with Kevin Durant. Man, we're talking about so many things going into the regular season, Cam, that we forget this is their first regular season with Kevin Durant fully, like the full year. There's so much to look forward to, buddy. I'm happy to be here to talk about it with you.
Yeah, that's going to be the best part. Like I said, the Valley just gets to relearn a team that could win it all. That's pretty cool to say. Kellan, thanks for the time, buddy.
Thank you, man.